Welcome to Football Over Family. I am Colin. That is Gavin doing some sort of dance move with no music on. This is episode 5. We are going to be talking about the absolute madness that has occurred over the last 4 days since we recorded our last episode. We wanted to shoot this episode a little bit early for you all because starting on Monday, when we would normally publish our podcast, there is the much awaited free agency period where Gavin and I are trying to figure out a way to go live and have a nice little first hour of free agency cake with you all. So we'll see how that goes. Look for us. Look for a notification if we
Yeah,
go live.
yeah. The history behind the free agency cake is probably we'll go with
7? I
six
think it was
years,
6 or 7.
6, 7 years
Yeah.
ago. Yeah, we made a funfetti cake slaps Betty Crocker. But anyway, we made one, and every time the Buccaneers or the Titans signed someone, we went ahead and ate a piece of cake.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty fun because that particular year, for whatever reason, it could be anyone. You could sign up sign a fifth string punter, and we're like cake because we're both large humans. We both enjoy
I
it.
think our rule was their contract had to be over $1 million per year in order to eat the cake. Because I mean, you sign like 18 free agents. You can't, you know, not all of them
Yeah,
are.
you can't have cake and eat it
Yeah.
too. You know?
We only had so
Uh,
much cake.
yeah. So then we obviously started eating cake for other teams. But what was important to note was that this created a tradition. So now I come to my work and I bring a cookie cake and I cut it into little slivers. And people around the office who have various teams, they eat cookie cake every single time they sign someone. And it's kind of fun. It's a thing that people know about. So
Yeah, it's fun. I mean,
I took PTO off.
it's delicious too. Yeah, so this is episode 5, and hopefully we will be bringing you a surprise live episode. Not really an episode, but you know, we'll just
Not really a surprise
yeah,
either because we're
that's
telling you.
true. So we'll just hopefully be hanging out with you on Monday for some free agency chatter, see what everybody's doing around the league. But in this episode, we're going to be talking about all the moves that everybody's getting done now, which was the franchise tag deadline was yesterday, and that was done and dusted now. We had a number of tags that I don't think we were expecting. And we'll talk about those. We also had the NFL announce the official salary cap, and that was not surprising at all. It was pretty much what we all thought it was going to be. The NFL also announced today the compensatory picks for all teams, which actually is there was also some follow-up news to that, which everybody was a little surprised by around the league. So we'll talk about
What the
the
mistake?
mistake that the NFL made as well. And then we also have our last two divisions, which are the AFC and NFC South. We saved these ones for last because the Titans, my brother's team, are in the AFC South, and the Buccaneers, my team, are in the NFC South. So,
Also, good that we waited because both divisions have had plenty of
yep,
news. Probably those divisions probably have had the most news. Almost, I'd say, if you consider what the Saints have been doing,
very true.
and as well as the
Yeah,
Titans and yeah,
that
Bucs.
reminds me, I actually haven't looked at the updated salary cap numbers since it published and the teams made those moves.
You know, I've been finding that over the cap is pretty far
Yeah,
behind in terms. It takes them a while to get it. Spot Rack goes ahead and updates it, but I've noticed twice it's been wrong, and then they've posted
yeah.
corrections.
We'll
So
just go with what they have at the moment, you know, and I'm not too
a
worried
rough
about it.
estimate.
All these things are going to change over the next couple days anyway. All right, so let's get started. Welcome, and we are going to be talking about first the NFL announcing that the salary cap for this season is about 16 million less than last year, and is set at 182.5 million. So again, a lot of talks that it was going to be around 180 to 181, and then some folks that were thinking the salary cap might go as high as 188. It is at
Yeah.
182.5. All the teams are going to need to do some work to get to that number, and it won't be surprising to see a bunch more veterans make it to free agency before Monday.
Yeah, and that obviously doesn't include the adjusted cap. If, for
Mm-hmm.
example, if a team in 2020 didn't spend over the cap, they get that amount
Rollover
added.
money,
So
correct?
rollover money. So I think that certain teams are doing a lot better than others. That's for sure. Like for sure. Like some teams be struggling.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be interesting to see how some of these teams figure out that best route, especially a team like the Saints, who they're now second lowest cap space, but they also just
Yeah.
used a franchise tag, which nobody saw coming, which is, I think, one of the other big pieces of news that we should get to.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
and it wasn't a surprise for a lot of these tags. I'll go ahead and list off all the players that got the tag. Taylor Moton, the tackle for the Carolina Panthers. Justin Simmons, the safety for the Denver Broncos. Marcus May, the safety for the Jets. Chris Godwin, Buccaneers wide receiver. Allen Robinson, Bears wide receiver. Leonard Williams, Giants defensive lineman. Cam Robinson, Jaguars left tackle. Marcus Williams, the safety from the Saints. Dak Prescott, who got the tag as a part of his contract negotiation, and Brandon Scherf, who got the tag as well, the Washington football team guard. So a lot of players, most of them we expected. Yeah. I didn't expect Marcus Williams. Nobody expected Cam Robinson. I think Leonard Williams surprised a lot of people because they also had Dalvin Tomlinson, and Leonard Williams is on his second franchise tag, so that number is very inflated. I think his cap total is almost 19 million this year. So that
20% more than the last.
Was very surprising.
And another two-time athlete that got tagged was Brandon Scherf. He got tagged last year as well, so he was another one, as well as Justin Simmons. He was tagged twice. In the last few episodes, we've noticed we've taken a little bit longer to get through the news portion than we'd like, so we're going to kind of move a little bit quicker. This time, I'm just going to quickly run through some players that were cut before we go and talk about the significance of each tag as well as cut. Some notable players, notable players that were not tagged is what I meant to say.
I was wondering if you were skipping
notable players that were not tagged and cut. No. Aaron Jones didn't get tagged. Packers thought about it, ended up not doing with it. He hits free agency. Kenny Golladay,
biggest one.
Another guy that everyone thought he was going to get tagged. It just didn't happen.
Biggest one in
Marvin
my opinion.
Jones left. Yeah, and they signed Tyrell Williams to that $1-year, $6 million deal, and it was interesting they just let Golladay walk out, especially after saying they were going to. Juju, he didn't receive it. Hunter Henry was the second biggest one. I thought he was someone they were for sure wanting to keep alongside Justin Herbert. They had good chemistry, and it wasn't super pricey. It would have been right around $10 million, so it was kind of interesting they didn't do that. Jonnu Smith didn't get one from the Titans. Shaq Barrett, obviously, if it went to Godwin, it wasn't going to go to Shaq Barrett. Matt Judon, Yannick Ngakoue, they didn't decide to get either guy with the tag there for the Ravens. Bud Dupree for the Steelers. Carl Lawson for the Bengals. Hassan Reddick for the Cardinals. William Jackson for the Bengals, he also didn't get it, and John Johnson, the safety for the Rams. I think I only skipped Joe, and I skipped him because I think that's the biggest mistake one.
Okay.
I wanted to ask your opinion.
Joe Thuney for the Patriots is probably one of the best guards in the NFL. I feel like you skipped it because you don't want to say his last name.
What's his last name?
Joe Thuney. That's what I've always called him.
No,
I don't know if it's different. Guards don't get no love.
It.
Guards don't get no love. But no, he didn't get the tag. The Patriots didn't feel the need to tag him. I think simply because of one of our other notes on here is that they traded for Oakland Raiders tackle Trent Brown, which is a former New England Patriot. The ideal offensive line for them now is that they're going to kick their left tackle Wynn inside to guard where he was before Trent Brown left, and Trent Brown will go back to left tackle, and now the offensive line is whole again, and they can get a nice third-round compensatory pick for Joe Thuney signing for one of the top guard contracts in NFL history. So it's a classic Patriots move that they make every single year. Last year they lost Ted Karras and one other offensive lineman in free agency, and they got two compensatory picks this year, one for Tom Brady, the other for their offensive lineman, Ted Karras, that they lost. So they do this every single year. This wasn't a surprise. I think it's only a surprise because he's an all-pro guard. He's not just like your run-of-the-mill top 16 starter. This is probably a top 2 or 3 guard in the NFL that just got let walk, was just told you can go.
Yeah.
So
anyway, it was important that some of these guys didn't get tagged, guys like Aaron Jones that have been productive, that were a big part of that offense. However, they do have they're more than happy with trying to get Jamal Williams back, like we talked about, as well as your boy who you love, AJ Dillon, who's a tank. And I thought Golladay was interesting. It's like you're not helping Goff at all by not bringing anyone back. So we'll have to see how that works out.
I think the Lions might just be doing what we kind of talked about, rebuild it. But it's just interesting. You don't want to bring back one of your better young players to do that rebuild. I don't know what they're doing. It's
also didn't seem like he was the type of guy that was gonna hate playing there. You could have probably worked on an extension. But then Hunter Henry's the one that I was like, wow, man, I feel like Herbert really could keep him, and they could really be dynamic
Yeah.
together. But anyway, we wanted to go back to the people that did get tagged. Cam Robinson, no one saw that coming. It just kind of just happened, and
It's
everyone was like,
it's
"What?"
a situation where the Jaguars have so much money that they might as well do another 1 year, see if he can continue to play at the level, because they've had 5 years with him now, and are now they've had 5 years with them now. So year 6 is a kind of like a last shot, last chance romance. See if it's going to work out, because he's improving, but improving isn't the same
And
thing as top tackle in the league. So
also left
yeah,
tackle.
important position.
Like you got to be good, especially with Trevor Lawrence coming in. And then, I mean, Godwin, you know they're going to work on
No.
a long
Yeah, there was
term
no
extension
surprise there.
before. Yeah,
Bruce Arians said right off the bat that there's 3 free agents that they're not going to allow them to go anywhere else unless the player wants to go somewhere else, and that was Levante David, Shaq Barrett, and Chris Godwin. And Chris Godwin was the one that was the most likely to get tagged, because Shaq Barrett's looking for long-term contract longevity. He's bet on himself 3 years in a row, and he's won on those last 2. So he wants to lock it down for his family. So that's one of those situations where I think it'll probably work out a contract eventually. Allen Robinson kind of surprised me, just because I thought the Bears would be better off resetting. They don't have a quarterback. I don't think there's a quarterback they can get this year that's going to really get them another shot at the playoffs and a chance at a Super Bowl. So it was surprising to me. But then I think the other big one is the Marcus Williams one, because the Saints are so far behind the cap that their willingness to use a $13 million franchise tag on a safety. Granted, it's a great safety, so it makes sense to want to keep him, but you can't afford him. You need to start being realistic about your team here. Your starting quarterback is Taysom Hill, and you don't have Jameis Winston yet. So
yeah. They did restructure some guys, but they're still
yeah,
struggling.
we'll talk about those in a bit. But yeah, anybody else you want to talk about?
On just the Titans side for Jonnu Smith, I what we think his value is $10 million. I don't think any Titans fan will sit here and tell you that he was worth $10 million. He's a big blocker, but I mean, the truth is that he had to be missed on this tag. I thought if there was a guy that they would have tagged, it would have been Corey Davis.
Okay.
But that would have been more expensive tag, and so Titans are not in a good cap spot either with their current free agents, so it doesn't surprise me too much. But the Titans did make another move. There were 2 big man trades. Colin touched on the first one, with Trent Brown going to New England for a 5th and a swap 7th. Go to the Raiders. Clears a little cap for Oakland as well, which I'm sure they love that. And then the Titans traded disgruntled first-round pick, shipped him to Miami. He's been MIA all along, so might as well make it happen for him. He goes to Miami, and he basically goes for a bag of chips. They get the second to last pick.
Do you know why he went to Miami? Brian Flores.
Everyone's reading into Brian Flores being he went to the same high school, and the offensive coordinator at the high school, who at the time is now on the team with the Dolphins. Wow, they'll be friends. No, this guy's partying, and we'll see if he turns his act around. I don't even think he's going to pass his physical. I mean, so we got to be careful.
I'm just saying, it is a big deal. It is a big deal when you're with a coach like Brian Flores, who's a player's coach too. He is.
Is Vrabel not a player's coach?
No, he is, but they have history.
I'm just saying there was more to this than a coach. It was a guy who wasn't wanting to be present. He skipped practices, got a DUI. Getting COVID, partying on a yacht. That's a personal
I understand
thing.
that, but the reason he found a team to get traded to is because there's somebody that has history. Otherwise, they would have outright released him. Everybody knew. Everybody around the league knew. All they did was swap 7th-round picks. It wasn't like they got a lot of stuff for him. So it was.
Well, actually, you're wrong, because just the fact that they got a team to trade him means we free $3.5 million in cap room this year and next year. Versus if we cut him, we are dead cap for the whole.
Absolutely.
So that's an important thing.
Yeah, but the only reason somebody's willing to trade for him is because they have history and they want him. They want the chance to have him, and that is Brian Flores' team, the Miami Dolphins.
And that's fine. But what's more important is the Titans were able to at least trade him and not cut him. That's the most important thing. So being able to save money, whether that's next year, which A.J. Brown extension is looming in the future anyway, being able to get money versus
I understand. Yes.
just to lose it is important.
Yes, very obvious that having money is better than not having money. I got you. No, but you're arguing that
I'm actually not arguing.
well,
You just were
the
saying
point
that
you're trying to make
that
is that having money is better than not having money,
the
which
point I'm
nobody
trying to
would
make is that
disagrees.
the point I'm trying to make is it's important that the Titans were able to find anyone to trade him rather than outright cut him. Is all I'm trying to
Obvious,
make.
yes.
So
I agree. That's the
okay.
situation with every free agent. Which, on the same note, Kyle Van Noy was officially released today after the Miami Dolphins were unable to find anybody to trade for him to save them $3 million on cap as well. So that
Well, he should have gone to high school with Mike Vrabel. He probably could have gotten
hey, he
traded
might
there.
have. So the other tag that I guess we could talk about is the Dak Prescott one. It was just a hey, Dak, we'll help you out in case in the future another team ever tries to tag you when you're 37. Basically, the Cowboys tagged him, which means he has officially been franchise tagged twice, meaning if he gets franchise tagged again in his future, then it would be his third, meaning he gets even more money off of that franchise tag. And then they signed him to a deal the next day officially. Obviously, it was the second highest quarterback average behind Pat Mahomes, I think, over the course of the contract. The second highest guarantees ever in an NFL in a contract ever, right? Was it 66 outright guaranteed? That was
121,
well, no, that's yeah, but
126.
like those are conditional that he's on the team next year. The full guarantee, the guarantees that were in year one are 66 million. So it literally like
It was the largest signing
yeah,
bonus in NFL history.
if he retires tomorrow, he gets $66 million. But obviously, he's not going to do that. So it was just a big deal, and congratulations to him. We talked about it last week on the show. Jerry Jones literally said today during the press conference, if anybody was ever going to fleece me out of some money, I'm glad that it was Dak Prescott. So I mean, it was a very interesting situation where the first time in NFL history a player is coming off of an incredibly gruesome injury and they got paid for it because like literally the team was like, we can't be without you, we would rather have you even if it's injured, so we'll risk it because you're worth it. And that was good for him. And in order to have that money to spend on Dak Prescott, who's only receiving about 16 million this year from like a salary standpoint for the salary cap, they restructured three of their offensive linemen, La'el Collins, Zach Martin, and Tyron Smith for $16 million. Unique how that perfectly matches up, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the point of restructuring, and you're like, hey, O-line, you guys got to protect this guy better because we just gave him a bunch of
Yeah.
money. In fact, give us your money to give.
Yeah, it was funny how that perfectly matched up. All right, we can go back to some of these other things that we kind of skipped over. So we talked a little bit about the NFL announcing the compensatory picks for all of the teams this year. There were 36 picks in total. They originally announced 37. We had 6 third-round picks that were given out to teams for players signing with other teams, and we had 4 third-round picks given to teams for having minority coaching or minority GMs or those types of hirings in the personnel department. So for the first time, we had the official NFL, I can't remember, it's like 231-20 rule take place. That was the teams can receive third round draft picks for having minority hirings across the NFL. So the San Francisco 49ers originally had 2 third round picks for that reason, but the rule clearly states that any team that has multiple in the same year instead receives the bonus of having 1 third round pick for the next 3 years each year. So in the end, it actually works out better for the 49ers. They get 3 over the course of the next 3 years rather than 2 this year. But at first, it looked like the 49ers had 2 third-round draft picks, so they probably are a little upset about that. There were another 26 compensatory picks given out between the 4th, 5th, and 6th round. We're not going to go into all those. Do you want me to give like a little breakdown on compensatory picks, or do you think it's all good?
Basically, if your dude leaves to another team, it's free agency or a trade.
It's just free agency.
Even. Okay, just free agency, leaves and they perform well and they're in a top X amount of players at their position in terms of contract. They have a sliding scale and you're awarded a pick based off of their salary overall compared to the market, and then they award you.
The equation's pretty cool. It's if a player gets a certain amount of money, they become a possible compensatory pick for your team, and if you sign like a player of a certain caliber for a certain amount of money that can affect whether or not you get a compensatory pick. So all of these players are thrown into this pool, and at the end of the year, the NFL goes back and says this player played X amount of plays, or they had this amount of games that they were active during, and all that comes together and goes like the Patriots had lost 5 free agents last year, and they gained 2, so they only got 3 compensatory picks. So it's just or they gained 3, so they only got 2. So it's just like a unique way of the NFL trying to say if you create enough good players and you lose a lot of good players, we'll compensate you with draft picks.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to move on to a bunch of cuts.
Yeah, let's do it.
Just a lot of cuts. We're just going to just run through the list. Players that have been cut since our last podcast include Carlos Dunlap, James Carpenter, Marcus Joyner, Adrian Claiborne, Dan Bailey, Malcolm Butler, Kenny Vaccaro, John Brown, Emmanuel Sanders, Quan Alexander is to be released. It's not an official release yet, but it was reported he will be released in coming days. Kevin Zeitler, Quentin Jefferson, and Riley Reef. And more are coming. By the time we finish this podcast, someone will be released.
More than likely.
That's just more than likely. And man, it's just because today the official cap came out and tags were yesterday. So basically the last 2 days have been very, very busy. And it's only going to get busier as teams trying to get under by that Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern time, basically is when they're going to want to be under, because legal tampering period starts at like 1 p.m. or something Eastern time on Monday. Yeah. So
it's big news. And a lot of those guys are pretty big veteran players, like the offensive linemen are the most surprising to me. It seems like this year teams are just they're removing the value of having stud blockers. They're almost just like, we could also just pay a dude the vet minimum and be like, you're good enough.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams are going younger in terms of offensive linemen, spending those high rounds on offensive linemen. It's been a trend over the last few years. Yeah. They select one stalwart stud to anchor down the left or the right tackle, and then in terms of interior linemen, it's just kind of like plug and play. Let's see what happens. So, and I think that's really what's going
it'll
down.
Be interesting with the free agency. I want to see how much money a lot of these vets are going to get, because a guy like let's just go with like Kevin Zeitler, for instance, was an $11 million guard, and he can play tackle too. And it's just one of those things where I feel like his market value is probably $11 million. I don't know that a team should have cut him that has offensive line troubles, because he's a good player.
I saw Barstool Sports no free shout-outs. Barstool Sports said, direct quote, despite their offensive line being a shitstorm for years, the Giants could decide to cut their best offensive lineman. And I was like, that's just staying in a losing mentality.
The
right?
Lions did the same thing. I wouldn't say that James Carpenter was the best lineman on the Falcons, but he's probably been one of the better ones on their offensive line, because they're losing Alex Mack in free agency as well. So it's just one of those things. I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see how it goes. I like the wide receiver market this year. It's going to be going to be very cool.
The Titans need it to be like big, like high end and then low end. And anyway, there's a lot of pay cuts, and touch on those quick. We want to get through the news. I mean, there's so much news; it's nearly impossible to get through it quick. But it's also interesting because it affects what every team does going forward. Every single day. For instance,
the Bills need a Josh Allen extension, so they just cut Quentin Jefferson and John Brown. They restructured Vernon Butler, they had Vernon Butler and Mitch Morse both take pay cuts to stay on the team. They offered the same to both John Brown and Quentin Jefferson, apparently, and they said no, so they cut them.
And the same thing goes for what we mentioned earlier with the Cowboys O-line, all restructuring essentially to help make it a lighter load for this Dak Prescott $66 million guarantee.
Yeah, and when we say the words pay cut and restructure, they're an extension. They're different things. Yeah. So if somebody's taking a pay cut, they're not receiving future years. If somebody's restructuring, they're pushing money to future years. And if somebody's getting an extension, it means they're adding additional years to their contract.
And additional money.
Just know that.
Likely.
Usually additional money in the form of like getting closer to your average position salary, like to the top of the NFL. So some other ones, the Carolina Panthers did the same thing. They restructured Christian McCaffrey and Shaq Thompson. Again, those are restructures, not pay cuts or extensions. These are two of their best players, basically saying, here's some more money to work with this year. Can you get us into the playoffs, please? The other ones we talked about the Cowboys, and the last one is Devin Funchess took a pay cut down to $750,000 in order to stay on the Packers. He opted out of last year, so he's kind of in a rough position where he was already on a prove it deal and he kind of dipped out on the team. So they basically said, we don't really think you need to prove it now. We're just going to get rid of you unless you'll take half the money. And he did.
He did. And, he's one of those guys we talked about a few weeks being an interesting piece on that offense if he came back. And here he is. He's making an effort to come back in the effort of $750,000. So we'll see how it goes.
We'll talk more about Levante David later. He signed a new extension with the Buccaneers to stay in town. But we can talk about that during the Buccaneers part of the division breakdowns. Let's go ahead and move into our division breakdowns. We're almost to the 25-minute mark here, so it's a good time to do that. We're going to be talking about the AFC South first. This is a division where you had a very obvious top two, bottom two situation last year. The Titans and Colts were really battling it out until about week 16, I think, for who was going to win the division. And then you had the Jacksonville Jaguars battling for Trevor Lawrence and the Houston Texans battling for keeping some of their players because they're just an organization in shambles. So it was just a really clear top two, bottom two. Titans went 5-1 in the division with a final record of 11-5, winning the division. The Colts also went 11-5, and they were 4-2 in the division. And then you had Jacksonville, who beat the Colts week 1, which was a surprise to everybody, and then never won again.
Yeah.
So
well, what was more important in this particular division race was Houston was inside the Colts 5-yard line with less than 10 seconds to go in both their games, and literally fumbled on the goal line both games. The Colts could have gone 0-2 in those Houston games. Could have been very different in terms of the playoff race.
And
the AFC was
the reason why? Darius Leonard.
Yeah, hey,
monster.
He's a monster, no doubt. But I'm just saying
monster.
That's how close this division was. Even at the Houston's a far better than 4-2 with Deshaun Watson. They were a far better team than 4-2. So it was and I mean the Titans. The Titans-Houston games also went to overtime, and we doinked one off of the upright to win the division. Yeah. So the Houston could have been 8-8 just off of those two series.
And they really could have been with the amount of close games they had. But it just doesn't go that way sometimes when you get rid of guys like DeAndre Hopkins and then trade for David Johnson for it. It's just one of those things where you might lose a couple more games.
I saw a potential trade proposal where Houston gives up Deshaun Watson, the Bears give up a first round this year, a first round next year, and then the Titans, Colts, and Jacksonville Jaguars all give up second rounds to sweeten the deal. And I think that we would make that trade. I think the Titans would make that trade, no doubt. If we gave up
That's a hilarious trade. Yeah. That's an NBA trade right there.
Titans give up a second round to make sure they don't have to face Deshaun. Deal.
Yeah.
So let's talk about these crazy Texans.
Yeah.
What do we think about the fact that they have some free agents, but honestly, none of them truly matter if Deshaun's not going to be there? It's like
Will Fuller's the only one. Will Fuller's the only one.
Yeah.
He was one of the best wide receivers last year until he got suspended, which was unfortunate. That's what happens when you take your protein shake advice from Ryan Cushing.
He gets hurt all the time too.
Except for this year. It was incredible. It was incredible.
He's one of the biggest play receivers in the NFL. I love owning him in fantasy football, spending a late pick on him because dude, all he does is score 50-yard touchdowns, and you're just like,
well, this year he became the possession wide receiver and the big play wide receiver. He did it all this year. He was, I think, fantasy football wise, he was the 5th wide receiver before his suspension, and it was absolutely game breaking for me because I got absolutely owned after he went away. He was doing great. But it's one of those things where if they don't bring him back, their starting wide receivers are Randall Cobb, and then that's it.
Yeah, they're in a tough spot.
So we'll see what they do. They only have $17 million in cap, as on our last number. I'll check here on over the cap to make sure that hasn't changed. No, it's still $17 million.
And they don't really need to re-sign any of those particular guys. Those guys are
guys being Gary and Conley, Vernon Hargraves. They're losing their former first round cornerbacks that didn't make it in the NFL, so got traded to the Texans.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say is they don't really need to put the effort into re-signing those particular guys. They can let them walk. They can go through the draft. They can do other things. Also, cornerback might be a decent market to get a couple cheap vets this year. Yep, so they'll be all right. Potential guys they could cut. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No,
No,
you got it. You got it. Yeah, you got it.
I was going to say that a couple guys they've already restructured David Johnson. We talked about that as well as cutting Duke. I don't know really even if they need to cut anyone. They
Yeah,
can
it's
if
at the
they
point where they're
want.
going to lose. They're going to lose. All these guys are going to be starters, but they don't really have enough money to replace them. They're not too expensive where they're at, so I don't think there's a reason why. I was just going to make a note that in every single one of these teams, we have their first pick in the draft noted on the side here. The Texans' first pick in this draft is pick number 131.
Yeah.
So they will see 130 top prospects leave the NFL draft before they ever have their first pick.
Which is
because
why,
absolutely gotten rid of all
trade
their picks.
Watson and
Yeah.
get some picks this year, or else you're going to
Yeah.
they're going to get crushed this year if they don't trade because they're not going to draft anyone and they're
Or
not.
Deshaun Watson will just be incredible and he'll run the team to a nice 7-9 record and they'll be out of the playoffs and out of another good pick.
Well, hopefully they do right
So-
by him. He wants to leave.
Yeah, what they need though, they need wide receivers. We mentioned that already. They need cornerbacks. We mentioned that already. They need some sort of interior offensive line help. They got rid of one of their own guys, and their offensive line was already pretty bad. If you haven't noticed, Deshaun Watson running for his life every single game. They also need interior defensive linemen because if you didn't know, a guy named J.J. Watt left, and then the year before that, they also lost Angelo Blackson. So both to Arizona, I might mention. So they also need some edge help. It's one of those teams where you can kind of just look at a position and say, yeah, they probably need some help there.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the Indianapolis Colts, who are going to be picking at the 21 spot this year. They have $44 million in cap room after the Carson Wentz trade, which is good for them because they do have some holes to fill. More, specifically, they need a left tackle now that Anthony Costanzo is retired. They also probably are going to look for edge help if they don't re-sign Justin Houston. So that's one of those things where maybe they also just want to get a new guy despite resigning Justin Houston, if they do, because he didn't really play too much last year. And then they're losing T.Y. Hilton unless they resign him. So wide receiver help. It's one of those teams where they have guys in place at a lot of key positions. So it's interesting to see what they could do here with all this money.
This team is built from the inside out.
Yeah.
Offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, they focus on that, and then the edge pieces they've been able to get in with like plug and play guys. They don't have any super studs that have just really gone really crazy for them, especially on the defensive side in terms of safeties and defensive backs. So I think that if they can make a move, they've picked 21. They can draft a trade up even. They don't need to hoard a bunch. They have a ton of young guys. And I think they're okay. They have plenty of money. They can make a big push for a guy, maybe trade like for a Stephon Gilmore or something like that. They could do that.
That'd be interesting. I see them as a team that's going to sit at 21 and make a good choice on some sort of edge defender. There's a lot of edge defenders that are being pushed towards the middle and backside of the first round because of all the quarterbacks, wide receivers, and offensive tackles. So I think that's a good spot for them if they're looking to get a replacement, a young edge rusher that's coming in and can do some,
or you draft
do some
left
work for them.
tackle and just make sure you replace Costanzo.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's one of those situations. So some free agents that they're going to be losing this year. They're going to be losing Xavier Rhodes, Justin Houston, T.Y. Hilton, Trey Burton, Malik Hooker, Jacoby Brissett, Marlon Mack, Anthony Walker, Danico Autry, and then Al Qadim Muhammad. I'm not sure if I say that right, but some defensive linemen for them, some Marlon Mack at running back, they've already replaced with Jonathan Taylor, Malik Hooker at safety. He's kind of their second to third safety, depending on, the team that they're playing. And then they also have Justin Houston, who is obviously a big part of the edge. I'm just curious, what of their vets do they re-sign here? Because it's one of those situations where there are so many vets hitting free agency this year. Do they look to try and get some in-house discounts, Usually teams that re-sign their own guys get a discount on the player. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. They don't have any cap casualties because they're in great cap situation.
Yeah, and that's part of because they've been so smart with how they've been spending and how even with the Carson Wentz hit, it's not terrible. Yeah. It's so I don't know what they need to do. What do you think they do gets them past the Titans to win the division?
I think they need to probably look at a cornerback in free agency, whether it's keeping Xavier Rhodes or looking at a guy like
Malcolm Butler's.
Yeah, Malcolm Butler's a good one. I mean, when you get cut by a division rival, a good place to go is their direct rival because it's a prove it type of thing, right? And then I think they probably want to go for a bigger bodied wide receiver. Michael Pittman is exciting. They're going to re-sign Zach Pascal on a restricted free agent contract, but I think T.Y. Hilton is awesome for that team. But I think they've learned their lesson on smaller wide receivers get hurt too much.
Yeah.
And then, kind of similar, they already replaced Marlon Mack, who I think is probably one of the sneakiest running backs in free agency this year, with Jonathan Taylor. So I think they're good there. I don't know. I think
so. This was my team pick to trade for Orlando.
Yeah, and I actually said that too.
This was my team pick. Hey, at pick 21, what could we do better than draft Orlando? We can't.
Well, yeah, I like it. I almost think you could probably go and just be like, here's a second round pick and I don't know, just like a fourth round or whatever, or a conditional fourth round pick that can turn into a third, and then you draft one of those edge. I really think that if they want a good edge rusher, this is the draft to stay at the 21 area and get a good edge rusher.
See, here's the thing though. I mean, as Titans fans know, we've been reading nothing but edge rusher crap forever, and no one's sold on any particular edge rusher from this class. And
they're not sold on who's the best. Is the thing.
And so I'm saying, so if you have all these varying pieces, and they're all supposed to go from like 17 to 23, just all of them. So it's like,
well, basically 17 to like 30 it's just going to be like 11.
Well, I'm saying rushers. The top 3 edge rusher guys are 17 to 23.
I understand.
Okay, but I'm saying as a Colts, like if I'm the Colts, I'm like, what would I rather do? Get the left tackle, trade for Orlando, or risk that I don't get the right guy out of the...
No, I agree. Yeah, I get you. I just think you can spend less on Orlando than a first round pick because he is in the final year of his deal.
It's not up to them though. It's up to the Ravens. If the Ravens
well, that's why. That's why he's in the last year of his deal. So the Ravens might run the risk of losing him for nothing next year.
Well, they will lose him.
Well, obviously he wants to leave. He's already openly requested for a trade. We agree that he is going to leave. It's just, do they want to get something out of it, or do they want to lose him for nothing? And I think that teams have the leverage in the situation when a player is requested a trade openly. He's in the last year of his contract. A team could say, he's in the last year. We could lose him too if we trade for him. So how about we give you a second and a conditional third or fourth that can become a third if he re-signs with us or whatever, Something like that. But okay, let's move on from the Colts. We'll move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, your NFL leading cap room team right here. They just re-signed their left tackle Cam Robinson for one of the most surprising franchise tags of the year, but they also have some other free agents, specifically wide receivers and corners. I'm going to list off a couple here. It's D.D. Westbrook and Chris Conley, and then Keelan Cole are the 3 wide receivers, and then they're losing their top 3 safety or cornerbacks that weren't rookie C.J. Henderson, Trey Herndon, Sidney Jones, and D.J. Hayden. A lot of those guys are former first-round draft picks that have flopped, as well as like what we saw with the Texans. So it'll be interesting to see who they try to keep around as far as the cornerbacks go. And then as far as the wide receivers, this is really interesting because this was a team that drafted Laviska Shenault last year, and everybody was surprised with a team that already had so many different wide receivers that were pretty young and were doing pretty well. I think Keelan Cole is a really sneaky free agent. So is D.D. Westbrook, who was hurt all of last year. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I like Keelan Cole. I've always thought he was very explosive, good possession guy. He made a lot of the big plays on third down for that team, especially a few years back on that run where they made it to the AFC Championship game. He was someone that no one remembers was on that team because Allen Hurns and Allen Robinson. And while that is something that they really were happy to have in terms of like a wide receiver that was just slowly contributing, they had, like we said, Chris Conley, D.D. Westbrook, and now those contracts are all gone. And they don't have to worry about replacing them because they have Shenault already on the roster. And they're probably going to draft a first-round or a second-round wide receiver to pair up with Trevor Lawrence.
Well, I mean, I think the team probably has so many holes on defense that I don't know they want to to spend a high draft pick on a wide receiver. They also have DJ Chark on the team, who is really, really well with your guy Gardner Minshew. So I think at wide receiver they're one of those teams that I think if they just resign one of D.D. Westbrook or Keelan Cole, they'll have a really solid top 3 wide receiver choices, and then they need to pair a tight end with Trevor Lawrence. That's the position I think they address as far as like offensive weapons. James Robinson was a revelation last year for them. I mean, like fantasy football wise, he was the number 5 running back overall. If you watched Jacksonville Jaguars game, which if you did, congratulations, you're one of the few. James Robinson was so good at making people miss, breaking tackles, effort plays. I think they really found a guy there. It's one of those situations where you put in a guy like Trevor Lawrence, this could be an exciting team again. And I think they need to build defensively around him since they have a lot of weapons already.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that he was a hit. I mean, anytime a guy goes undrafted and rushes for over 1,000 yards, he's a hit. And so
for sure.
I think he's one of those guys that he seems like he's going to be dynamic wherever they put him on the field. Even out of the slot, he was very good with the ball in his hands and in terms of screens and swing routes and stuff. They can build around him in terms of what they want to do and what fits Trevor's best skill set. So I think they're a team that they just need some defense.
Yeah.
They just need some defense and also stability in that locker room. I mean, have you seen a team blow up quite like they blew up after that AFC Championship game in terms of roster?
Yeah, they had a lot of
blew up team, front office decisions, coaching decisions. I mean,
personalities that didn't work well together. Yeah. It was just a nightmare scenario. It was like one of those things where it was almost the opposite of. It was like what happened if Cinderella story went wrong at the very last second. It was like, and now we all hate each other.
The Texans are the Jaguars 2.0.
Yeah,
and it's been weird to see, but hey, in the AFC South, go ahead, blow yourselves up.
Yeah, so they need pieces along their entire defense, basically, interior defensive line, cornerbacks, safeties, and then I mentioned tight end. Obviously, they're drafting Trevor Lawrence first overall, unless some magical trade happens where they don't. So I expect lots of defensive veterans to come in, and then this isn't a bad draft for tight ends, so maybe they go for that, or maybe they're a team that gets a guy like Hunter Henry and says, "Hey, how was playing with Justin Herbert? Fun? All right, come play with Trevor Lawrence. See how fun that is."
Yeah, I think he's a very good free agent target. If you were to talk about guys for the Jags, I thought he was a phenomenal one.
Make him the highest paid tight end in the NFL, and then call it good.
He will be. There's no doubt in my mind he will be. Let's move on to the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
We've been a very active team in the last 48 hours, cutting Kenny Vaccaro and Malcolm Butler, eating some dead cap, but more importantly, getting some cap room. It's a big free agency. Titans fans have been referring to it as one of the biggest free agency, biggest, what's the word I want to use? Penultimate free agencies we've had, because we have 6 good players and 3 could even end up for 3rd round compensatory picks because they're going to get big contracts. And Jonnu Smith, Corey Davis, and Jayon Brown, all 3 guys are going to get paid.
Yeah.
And
Daquan Jones too, right? You're pretty high on him.
He's just a great run stopper, first and second down. He's phenomenal. But we have those guys, and then we traded for Desmond King for a 6th round pick at the deadline from the Chargers. I thought that was a very good trade at the time.
Very good trade.
And now it's going to be very interesting to see if we can keep him. But we also have Clowney, who wasn't great for us, but also tore his meniscus, played on a bad meniscus. So I think the Titans are really struggling to get under the cap, and they're cutting people right now and still might not get the people that they're cutting to try to save. So they're in a weird position. I don't know if they re-sign anyone. I don't know if they're able to find the money to get everyone. And then the last thing is, by cutting Kenny Vaccaro and Malcolm Butler, all they've done is create another need, because now you're like, okay,
you're
who's
starting safety and your starting corner?
Kenny didn't play every game this year. We actually had Amani Hooker was in for him. He played quite a bit. He was a draft pick 2 years ago, and he tied for the league or the lead in interceptions for us. So he's a pretty good player. Maybe get him some more reps out there. So we're excited about him. But as far as depth, we have nothing. So the Titans are an interesting spot. We had the worst draft or worst offseason out of any team last year, I think.
Probably. I think that's pretty
Wasted our
fair.
first round, wasted
Wasted
our
your
first
first
round
round
pick.
draft pick,
None of our
signed
other players
Jadeveon
played.
Clowney, like
Yeah, signed Vic Beasley.
yeah.
I mean, we literally had a terrible offseason. So J. Rob knows he has to hit it out of the park this
Yeah,
year.
I
So
think it's one of those things where the team, I think they're making all these moves because they know that there are some guys out there that they could probably flip those starters with, or even like for a Kenny Vaccaro, you're talking about Amani Hooker might be the guy. Maybe they're more comfortable moving with him and a backup safety in like the fourth round and then a vet, right?
yeah,
But I think I actually do think they try to keep either Corey Davis or Jonnu Smith, one of the two. And then I really think the team needs to keep Jayon Brown. I don't think you can move on from a guy that holds together your defense like he kind of does for them.
the one thing is Jayon, when he went out, a guy named David Long Jr. came in for us, and he played very good. He was a lone bright spot on that defense
Yeah.
after that Ravens game where Jayon dislocated his elbow, and he was a 6th round pick 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So people were really high on I just said his name.
Long
Why can't
Jr.
David Long
Long
Jr.
Jr. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, what the heck? So we don't know if we're going to want to spend the money on Jayon. We don't know if we have the money for Jayon. We don't know if we
Yeah.
have the money for
It's one of those
so
situations though where it's like a sample size problem. Did he play good because he's good, or did he play good because he was in the moment? And that's one of those things that's hard to judge with like those later guys, because sometimes they could step in and fill a hole for a little while. But
played 9 weeks as a starter.
yeah, but I mean, like, not all of those were. It's one of those situations. You get what I'm saying, though, where like, is he a Jayon Brown level impact player, or did he just fill the shoes and make it seem like less of a bigger loss? Like less of a huge loss to your defense.
Yeah, I don't. The answer is I don't know, but the Titans fans certainly he stood out when we were on one of the worst defenses in the league last year. He stood out.
Imagine pairing him and Jayon Brown together, though.
They play the same position.
Well, no, you can move linebackers the way that the Buccaneers have moved Levante David to an outside linebacker rather than a middle linebacker, and you can get a rangy guy like Jayon Brown can play more outside. I'm just spouting out options because good defensive players are really hard to find.
Yeah, but I'm saying I think the Titans fans would agree, and people that know who David Long Jr. is, that he has the potential to be a guy that could be a better Jayon Brown. So that's what I'm saying. They might just feel comfortable letting him go to try to save Corey Davis.
Okay.
Or you know what I'm saying?
I
like
get
that's
that.
my
I'm just
we have no one behind AJ Brown. The next starting receiver, the only receiver under contract is Cameron Batson.
Yeah.
So what's more important, saving Jayon and keeping David Long Jr. or saving Corey Davis?
I think these moves are to do multiple guys.
No doubt,
they're getting
no doubt.
those both into the team. That's why I was saying I think this is we need one on offense and one on defense type of situation. And I don't think they go anywhere without starting with Desmond King, though. I think that's the biggest piece.
I don't think they re-sign anyone.
You don't think that? Okay, we'll see. I mean,
I don't think any of those big ones, Jayon, Corey, Jonnu, I don't think they get any of those back. I think they focus on King. They focus on Ferguson.
Okay.
Maybe Clowney stays for $6 million because he's like, okay, I live here. I have
good luck.
I have my rehab here. It's I don't know. Maybe
I would rather not even have him.
Hey, if he wants to stay for $6 million, he can stay for $6 million.
I mean, a year after holding out saying he wants 20.
So we need edge rusher. We need wide receiver depth. We need a backup quarterback. That's something that's been
and a tight end
in the works. And we really badly need tight ends.
You have to re-sign Ferguson if you don't sign Jonnu, I think. I think you have to re-sign.
No, we have to re-sign. We literally have no other tight ends on the roster.
You have to go after Anthony Ferguson and just be like, we think you could be the guy, and then draft a third-round rookie or whatever.
Of the 7 tight ends that were on the roster at the end of the season, only 2 remain under contract heading into this year. So this year, Titans have 4 picks in the top 100, thanks to the compensatory pick from Jack Conklin going to the Browns. So they probably end up looking to address one of these massive holes with all the depth that we have. 2 6th rounds, a 5th, 2 7 or a 7th. So.
I look for them to probably go after an edge rusher in the free agency market as well, and then probably sign one in those first 4 picks that they have as a conditional. You can be the rotational guy that we train, and then we replace you, or you replace our free agent signing if he flops again.
So my prediction, if I was going to give you a 1 minute prediction of the Titans
Shoot.
offseason from this point forward, will be this: the Titans will sign a overpay one player. I think that would be an edge player.
Okay.
I think that's what they think. They're like, hey, our defensive backs are cutting them because they're bad, but also they're bad because they had to defend for 9 seconds. So edge rusher, they end up drafting a defensive back in the first round. I think that they target a guy like J.C. Horn from South Carolina. And then I think they signed 2 lower name wide receivers and then also draft tight end in the 2nd or 3rd round. I think that's how they attack these big holes.
Okay, that's fair.
That's what I think will happen. And would I love Corey Davis back? Yes, but hey, we're going to get 3 potential compensatory picks next year. So
yeah, I mean, hopefully, right?
hopefully. I mean, hey, I don't wish bad on any of those guys. I hope they have great careers other than if they go to the Ravens.
Yeah, that's fair. NFC South, let's do it. The one of the more interesting teams in the NFL. Sorry, my contact was about to fall out of my eye. One of the more interesting teams in the NFL to kind of just watch this year has been the New Orleans Saints with all of the Drew Brees stuff. So I'm really excited to talk about them. Obviously, we've talked about them a decent amount already. They were the top team in the NFC South last year at 12-4. They went 6-0 in the division with a clean sweep, including a very embarrassing game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers went 11-5 and took the 2nd spot. They were 4-2 in the division, losing both games to New Orleans and then sweeping Carolina and Atlanta. Carolina went 5-11 after losing Christian McCaffrey, although Mike Davis did look pretty damn good for them. Atlanta went 4-12 after what was just an oddly bad season for them.
They blew a lot of games.
Gosh, Todd Gurley looked horrible. The team just as a whole looked like they had no motivation. They ended up letting go of both their coach and GM. It's just one of those situations where it just was weird to watch the Falcons last year. You just felt like there was never a game that they were going to win.
Yeah, and now you're going to have a far different looking team with Arthur Smith, the old Titans offensive coordinator, running the ship now. I mean, they're going to be more of a possession football team. They're not going to be looking to strike quick, which is what they were kind of looking at trying to do. They jump out to big leads, and then they wouldn't know how to prevent the other teams from coming back by a proper clock management. They didn't run the ball effectively, which hurt them in every single one of these games.
Victim of the strangest onside kick in NFL history.
Yeah, they just struggled. So let's just jump into the Falcons.
Yeah.
They're behind in the cap room.
19 million. Yep.
Yeah, they're behind. They have free agents like Alex Mack, Darquez Denard, Shout Michigan, Keanu Neal, and Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley's still getting paid for by the Rams, and they could resign whoever they want. They love Neal. He's just never been healthy. He's been very good, but then not healthy. Very good and then not healthy. He caused a lot of turnovers.
Yeah.
Like, he makes a lot of plays, game changer, but never healthy.
Yeah. Oh man,
who they cut off?
They already cut Alan Bailey. They already cut Ricardo Allen. They already cut James Carpenter. They have the most interesting situation because it's a team that everybody thinks is going to move on from both Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. A lot of talks in the offseason. And then also the fact that they're so far under the cap, everybody's wondering who they're going to get rid of next. And so they're just so weird, such a unique situation to have such
4-12.
You have such a good quarterback and wide receiver combo. And then Calvin Ridley is your number 2 and he's incredible, So how is it not working out better for them? And hopefully Arthur Smith and just a new regime can kind of hone it in and get this team working like it should again. And I don't know, change the mentality of this team. They have holes that they need to fill though, because they're missing some edge players. They've busted on a lot of picks lately. Tack McKinley being the most recent in memory. They also have cornerback issues. They're losing Darquez Denard, but they haven't been hitting on their draft picks there either. And they're losing Keanu Neal at safety. The only thing they really have on the defensive side is linebackers. So with Deion Jones, they need a new running back because Todd Gurley's gone, and they saw what it was like without him. So that's pieces. They're getting rid of some of their offensive linemen, so they need to replace them. It's just they have so many holes, and you just wonder where is all of their money at? and it's just really in Julio Jones and Matt
Matt
Ryan.
Ryan.
That's pretty much where
Yeah.
it's all at. So
Yeah. Now the Panthers just got some new money today after some of their guys
yeah.
restructured up.
Yep.
And the big question, no matter what we talk about free agents, no matter what we talk about their needs, no matter what we talk about who they could cut, the answer is all to one question: are they sticking with Teddy Bridgewater?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to try to trade for Watson? Well, it's all on
Yeah.
the
Or
quarterback
Russell Wilson.
or Russell Wilson. It's all on the quarterback, and they created some new room today, and there's got to be a reason why they did that.
Yeah, they're up to 24 million in cap after the moves that were done today. As far as we're aware, I don't think we have numbers on Shaq Thompson's restructure. They do have some impending free agents, one being important. It's Russell Okung, their starting left tackle. We talked about them tagging Taylor Moton already. He's their right tackle. Whether or not they want to kick him over, nobody knows. But they're also losing Curtis Samuel, who's a really good gadget player for them.
I want him for the Titans. He's a very good player.
Who doesn't want Curtis Samuel? A guy that can play running back
Davis.
and wide receiver. Mike Davis, backup running back.
He played really good.
He played incredible.
Really good. He's a guy that I think would play really good for like the Seahawks. He's like their type of runner.
He was a Seahawk before he was a Bear.
I know.
He's one of those guys that's
I'm saying
oddly
play good for them now.
Yeah, I get you. I totally get you. He's one of those guys that's been playing good every single time he gets a chance, and then they're just like, but we have this other guy, so you're gone. And he just played himself out of a contract with Carolina because he played too well to re-sign as their backup. He's going to go be some team's 1B or, whatever it might.
What about the Packers? That'd be fun.
I mean, yeah, if they don't resign a guy like Jamal Williams, I see him more as like a potentially the Atlanta Falcons starting running back,
Also true.
Yeah, so there are teams that will use him. Somebody will pay him, and I think he'll do just fine. He was good on the Bears before they replaced him with David Montgomery, so we'll see what Mike Davis does. I just don't think he re-signs here. The real question for me is whether or not they try to re-sign Russell Okung or move Moton over to left tackle and then go for somebody else at the position.
Well, if they get Russell Okung, they'll pay him in Bitcoin. That's what he asked for.
I mean, fair.
Yeah.
Easy enough, right?
Speaking of easy enough, the Saints are trying to be trying to make it as easy on them as possible to get under the cap, but it has not been easy. They've been struggling. They're getting rid of as many people as they can, restructuring as many people as they can, and how far under the cap are they still? Do we have updated numbers?
They're actually the second lowest team as of today. They are at 31 million over the cap right now. They just surpassed the Rams with all of the moves they did today because, the Rams don't think they need to do anything. They think the cap just doesn't exist, apparently.
Yeah, so to recap, the Saints have already released Jared Cook, Sheldon Rankins, and Emmanuel Sanders, and will be releasing Quan Alexander.
Yep.
So when you have those type of players that were contributors, it's going to be interesting for them, and they're still, like we said, 31 million
and
over the cap.
That's after restructuring, I think, 6 players' contracts now at this point, being Drew Brees, Cam Jordan, Malcolm Brown. There's a couple other players, but the way that they're trying to get underneath the cap now is what the Rams are going to also be trying to do, which is to extend some of their key players, and sign them to contracts similar to what the Bucs did with Levante David, where his cap total for this year is $2 million, but his average salary is $12 million. And the way that people are going to be doing that is through voided years. So everybody thinks that Ryan Ramczyk, Marshawn Lattimore, maybe Alvin Kamara. No, he just got a contract. They think that all of the Saints stars basically are going to get extended contracts where there's going to be some real big cap hits like 3 years down the road. So we'll see how the Saints do this. This is one of those situations where this team has been in some really bad cap situations before and they've managed to make it out. So I don't know what's going to happen there because they also do still have 2 more key free agents on their team. Trey Hendrickson, their other edge rusher, who's probably, I don't know, maybe the top edge rusher in this free agent period. I don't know.
You think so? I definitely don't.
Okay. I mean, that's why I kind of pose it as a question because it's between him and
guys like Bud Dupree, Reddick, Lawson. Yeah. I mean, there's a list.
I think there's
the guy from Detroit,
Romeo Okwara.
Yeah,
Romeo
he's
Okwara.
Out there. He's a very underrated
player. There's 3 guys that I think really are at the top. It's Hendrickson, and then I think it's Carl Lawson, and then Bud Dupree. Bud Dupree is one of those guys. I don't know that he can ever stay healthy enough after back-to-back years where he's kind of been ups and downs. Trey Hendrickson is the one for me. Because,
what about Shaq Barrett?
Shaq Barrett's not going nowhere.
Yeah, Shaq Barrett's the number 1 guy.
Yeah, but he's not going. I'm not counting him because he's going to resign.
No, he's not.
He'll resign before Monday. We'll talk
$1
about that.
bet.
Sure. Bet. Yeah, sorry. Camera bet. So I guess for the Saints, what's going to happen is they need to make more moves. We'll see how they do that. They do need to replace, some starter positions. If they get rid of Quan Alexander, which is expected, they're going to need another linebacker beside Demario Davis. And then also they probably just need to figure out quarterback because Jameis Winston is also a free agent, and Drew Brees hasn't retired, so we don't know if that's going to happen. And then you have Taysom Hill, who's being paid $16 million to be a running back. So on a team that already has Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
It's an interesting situation. We'll see what they do, especially because a lot of the talk is that it's Jameis Winston's team now, and Jameis Winston isn't a quarterback that's on the roster of the New Orleans Saints, so I don't know how that's his team.
Well, regardless, all I'm going to say is my hot take for this episode is that the Saints won't make the playoffs if Brees doesn't play. It doesn't matter who they put in at quarterback. I don't think they make it. I think they move players around. They cut players. I think they're going to miss the playoffs. I think that Brees makes the team stable. And we saw they were able to get away with Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston mixture. But I think with the change in the guard that they have there going in terms of players on the field and leadership, they won't be able to make that happen.
I like it. That means the Buccaneers are going to win the division.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really tough for them.
Yeah. All right. So that brings us to our last team of the episode, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are now sitting around a negative $4 million in cap space after signing Chris Godwin to the franchise tag. Couldn't think of the word franchise.
He hasn't even technically signed it yet.
I mean, the money is already put into the salary cap books.
Well, the hope is, right, when you have a guy like that, you sign him to a long-term deal, and then you take off that cap bit. Let's just say, what was it, 16 point something mil?
It's 15.9, so yeah, 16 mil.
Okay. Anyway, so let's just say
you said 16 point something, and so I said no, it's 15.9.
Take the 15.9 off the books, and maybe his is only 12 this year, but he makes more guaranteed money down. So that way you can more cap room. So that's the hope before he signs it, if you will.
Yeah, they have some key free agents, one being Shaq Barrett, who I don't think will ever hit the free agent market. I think they want to pay him, and they've said they will, so hopefully that happens. They also have guys like Ndamukong Suh, Steve McClendon, who they traded for from the Jets last year, Rob Gronkowski, Leonard Fournette, Antonio Brown, and then also our kicker, Ryan Suckup. It's a big deal to Bucs fans because kicker's been a bad position for us for years. You may remember us trading up into the second round, not seventh, for Roberto Aguayo, so I want Ryan Suckup. If you're listening, Jason, I want him. So I think they're likely to resign both Barrett and Gronk because I don't think Gronk plays for an NFL team if Tom Brady isn't the quarterback. And as far as what they can do to get under the cap there, Cam Brate is one of our tight ends. OJ Howard is another. Both are being paid around $6 million. I think those are guys that they look to extend, restructure, work around their money to bring back Gronk. And then you have Tom Brady, who's, if they extend him, they can save a lot of money. And then also Mike Evans is another guy who's restructured for basically every year the last 5 years. So another guy that I think they would be willing to restructure some money. And then they have a similar situation to the Saints with some offensive linemen that are on expiring contracts that they could extend and push some money around. So I think they'll be able to make room for at least Barrett and Gronk. Whether or not they can keep a guy like Fournette and Antonio Brown is really up to those guys, whether or not the market's going to price them out and if they want to stay on Tampa, with Tampa and go for a second ring, or if they want to move on for money. Obviously, those free agents are the needs for the team. We need interior defensive linemen if Sue leaves. We have Vita Vea, shout out to my boy Bryce. And then if Ryan Suckup leaves, we need a kicker. And if Shaq Barrett leaves, we need an edge rusher. So you see the obvious holes. They're the free agents that we have leaving. Yeah, I think that pretty much recaps the Bucs' whole situation.
Also, they won the Super Bowl last year.
They won a Super Bowl, so they have pick number 32.
That's pretty cool. It'd be pretty cool to win a Super Bowl.
It is very cool to win a Super Bowl.
It'd be pretty cool.
I enjoyed it. Sure. Yeah. All right. Well, anything else to say on the Bucs? Did I get it all? Will Golston, another cap casualty.
It was fun to watch them this last year.
It was trying times at certain periods when Brady and the offense weren't clicking, but when
they lost that Bears game and you texted me.
Oh, that was miserable, man.
Anyway, all right, let's jump into the Bucs. Speaking of the Bucs, we're going to go with my game for today. My game for today. from when the Bucs won the Super Bowl in 2002 to 2003 season.
Yep. Thanks, John
From
Gruden.
then until now, 2020 to 2021, 11 teams have won a Super Bowl.
18 years.
Can you name those 11 franchises?
18, I guess 17 seasons, 11 teams.
Yep.
All right, let me just knock out 5 of them right now. Patriots. Is that 5 or is that 6 of them? I don't know.
5.
Okay, Giants. That's 2.
Yeah.
Packers, Saints, Chiefs.
5.
Eagles,
6.
Broncos,
7.
Seahawks.
8.
Did I say Saints already?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Colts.
Yep.
Rams. No, not Rams. Not Rams. Sorry.
They lost to the Patriots.
Yeah, they lost. I'm just trying to think back to who I watched.
That's 9.
Yeah. Falcons lost to the Patriots 28-3. Oof. Let's see. Who am I forgetting? Sorry, I have to kind of try and think about it here.
Oh, you're good.
Arizona didn't.
Who they lose
Steelers.
to?
They lost to the Steelers.
10.
Yep.
You're missing one team.
Yeah. Yeah, I got Peyton Manning's Broncos year. I got the Seahawks and the Patriots because it went Seahawks and then the Malcolm Butler save.
Rip.
And then the Broncos went and they destroyed. I don't remember who they destroyed. Might have been the Seahawks.
It wasn't a Detroit. It was a close game. It was against the Panthers.
Oh, sorry. The Seahawks destroyed the Broncos, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
43 to 8.
Yeah. Okay. Who am I missing? What team? I just kind of have to run down the list in my head.
Do you want me to give you a hint?
No. I'm just trying to run down the list in my head.
I'll give you a hint without telling you
Ravens?
anything about. Yep, there you go.
Yeah. I just needed to go through the divisions. Is that all of them?
That's all.
Hey, easy. Tom Brady, thank you.
Got all 11. Well done.
Well, yeah, it also just makes it easy because you just go, okay, who did Tom Brady lose to? The Giants. That's an easy 2 right there.
Yeah, but faith in Flacco reigns supreme.
Yeah, I was just trying to think who else.
The hint I was gonna give you was turn off the lights.
Oh, that was such a game-changing moment.
Dude, the Niners were like, all right, the lights went off. And then they went hard after that. And it could have been a PI in the back of the end zone. Everyone knows if they wanted to throw it, they could have thrown it. No, it would have been like, that was a terrible call. Except for Ravens fans.
Yeah. I was about to say, there's some people that would have said that was a horrible call.
That was such a dope game. I feel like we've been robbed of good Super Bowls as of late. Like the Bucs versus the Chiefs wasn't that great. The Chiefs versus the Niners for me was just okay. It wasn't like super crazy. The Patriots beating the Rams was lame.
I like how your list is just single letters.
Yeah.
I tried not to look at the game, so I'm glad I did.
However,
what is GA Giants?
Yeah.
Why GA? That makes me think of Georgia. I was like, what?
Why I put that? I didn't want you to be able to read it and know who it was straight up.
I try not to look at your games.
Anyway, what I was trying to say before you interrupted me, the last great Super Bowl was the Eagles versus the Patriots. That game slapped. That game was super fun.
Yeah. That was a really good game.
But before that, then other crappy games like the Broncos Panthers, crappy. Seahawks Broncos, crappy. Then it was Patriots versus Seahawks. Malcolm Butler pick. Game slapped.
That game was a good one for sure.
So what I'm trying to say is there's been like only 3 or 4 good Super Bowls in the last decade.
The Colts Bears was a good one just because of the electricity of the first play being a kickoff return for a touchdown.
I mean,
that was cool.
You had Rex Grossman starting Super Bowl.
I know.
Do you actually think that was going to be a good game? Did you really believe?
But we all knew that was like. I mean, the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl 3 or 4 years earlier on Brad Johnson. So.
Yeah, but that was a good game.
That was not a good game. That was a blowout. The Buccaneers.
I know, but it was fun. The defense was fun to watch. These other games I'm talking about were like Peyton Manning had like 55 yards passing and won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It was trash. Yeah. It was like 16-9 was the final or something dumb like that.
It's just one of those where defenses reigned supreme in the early 2000s, and now it's kind of like who's the best quarterback.
Well, I'll tell you, defense reigned supreme in 2021 Super Bowl as well. Correct. I mean, the Bucs defense clapped
Yeah.
Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Yeah, showed you how to beat him. Oh, that was a good episode. Hey, we're just over the hour mark. We're at an hour and 8 minutes. So congratulations to us. Even though our teams were up, we didn't talk for too long, especially with all the news. I think that's just because we didn't have the extra 3 days of cuts and stuff like that to go over as well. Oh,
But there was more cuts.
yeah.
And more trades and more. There was more everything. We just did a better job this time.
Yeah, did a better job of managing it. Well, thank you everyone for tuning into this episode. If you have any, comments at what we're going to be, or over what we just covered in the episode, feel free to talk to us on YouTube. If you tuned in for the live showing of this, we'll be doing some Q&A after and just hanging out with the chat for a little while. So hit us up there on Twitch, twitch.tv/footballoverfamily. Our YouTube page is Football Over Family. Links are available. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're already there, but links are available on our Twitch channel if you're watching live. And then we also have an Instagram where Gavin's been posting some updates, and then also is going to be putting a bunch of clips up from the last 3 episodes. Well, you've been doing more of the Dak Prescott, and all of the little.
I posted one Dak Prescott story.
Well, I was just saying you've been doing all the little oh, this just happened in the NFL. This just happened in the NFL.
A few notifications here.
Yeah, so it's still nice. So our Instagram is also Football Over Family, and that is without any spaces. So check us out on any of those 3 platforms. We hope to see you and talk to you in our comments or whatever it might be. If you listen to us on your drive home, shoot us a text and say, I disagree with everything you say. You're horrible at doing podcasts. I don't know. Anything is still something.
That's a problem.
We'll be hanging out with the Twitch chat here afterwards, so come check us out. Gavin, anything to add for the outro?
No, I would just like to say, can't wait for Monday.
Oh,
best day of the year.
So exciting. Cake, 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 cake. All right, we'll see you all on Monday for a not surprise stream at probably 9 a.m. Eastern time.
Let's go. I'm waking up 6 a.m. Let's run it.
Let's run it. All right. Thank you, everybody, and we are out.